Amina had just come home from school. She dropped her backpack on the floor, kicked off her shoes, and walked into the kitchen. The house smelled like burnt toast and old flowers, the usual scent of her aunt's place. She was 16, quiet and kind. She loved to read mystery books and watch the rain fall. Her life was small, but peaceful. She poured a glass of juice and was about to sit down when she heard her aunt talking on the phone. Amina froze. The voice wasn't loud, but the words hit her like a punch. "The wedding is tomorrow." "No, she still doesn't know." He said not to tell her. Amina blinked. "Wedding?" Her heart raced. "Who's getting married?" She quietly walked to the door and listened more. "Yeah," he said, "the girl's better off not being there. It'll just cause drama." Amina's throat tightened. There was only one he they could mean. Her dad. She hadn't seen him in 3 years. Not after the divorce. Not after her mom got sick and passed away. He had stopped calling. No birthday cards. No visits. Just silence. She always told herself maybe he was just far away. Maybe he was working. Maybe he missed her but didn't know how to say it. But now, he was getting married. And he didn't even tell her. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She slowly walked back to her room, shut the door, and sat on her bed. Her hands shook. She felt like a ghost in her own life. That night, she couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling for hours, her mind full of questions. Who was the bride? Why didn't he want her there? What was he hiding? By morning, she had made a decision. She was going to the wedding, not to shout, not to cry, but to look him in the eyes and see the truth for herself. Amina had no fancy dress. She picked the best one she had, a long blue gown that used to belong to her mom. She tied her hair back, cleaned her shoes, and grabbed her bus pass. She didn't tell her aunt. She just left. Her heart beat faster with every stop the bus made. She clutched the small paper with the wedding address, which she found in her aunt's planner. Finally, she reached the venue. It was a big, shiny hotel. People were dressed in gold and white. There were flowers everywhere, and music played softly from the garden. She stood at the edge for a moment, her hands cold, her breath short. Then she walked inside. The hall was full of smiling faces. People turned to stare. Amina kept walking, step by step, her eyes searching. Then she saw him, her father. He was laughing with someone, a glass in his hand. He looked healthy, happy, like the last 3 years never happened. And beside him, the bride. Amina stopped. She was tall, dressed in a long white gown. Her smile was wide, but when her eyes met Amina's, her face froze. The smile vanished. She whispered something into her groom's ear and stepped away. Amina walked closer. She felt like her feet were floating. "Dad," she said, loud enough for only him to hear. He turned and went pale. "Amina?" he whispered. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you," she said calmly. "I heard you're getting married." His eyes darted around. "You weren't supposed to. I mean, this isn't." "On your daughter," she said. "I think I should be here." Before he could answer, the bride returned. She tried to smile. "Hello, sweetie. You must be Amina." Amina tilted her head. There was something in the woman's voice. Something fake. Something cold. "I've heard a lot about you," the bride said. Amina replied quietly, "I haven't heard anything about you." The bride's smile twitched. For the next hour, Amina stayed in the back. She watched. She listened. The guests laughed, toasted, danced. But the bride kept glancing over her shoulder at Amina. Something wasn't right. Amina could feel it. Then she noticed a man in black standing near the bar. He wasn't drinking. He wasn't smiling. He was just watching. But not the bride. He was watching Amina. The speeches began. The bride took the mic. She talked about love, about trust, about new beginnings. But Amina didn't hear the words. She was staring at the way the bride kept touching her necklace, tapping it 3 times, then pausing. Like a signal. Amina's stomach turned. This isn't just a wedding, she thought. Something else is going on. And she had just stepped into it. Amina stood in the corner of the wedding hall, her back against the wall. The music was soft, people were dancing, smiling, but none of it felt real. Her eyes stayed on the bride, the woman in white, the woman who had stolen her father's heart, the woman who had smiled so sweetly, but whose hands were cold, the woman who kept looking over her shoulder like she was hiding something. Amina had come to this wedding with one question. Why didn't my dad want me here? Now she had more questions than answers. She watched closely as the bride talked to guests, always polite, always smiling. But when she turned around, Amina saw her whisper something to the man in black standing near the bar. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He just nodded. Amina's heart beat faster. Who is he? She wondered. And why is he watching me? She looked around the room again. No one else seemed to notice. Everyone was caught in the joy of the moment. But something felt wrong. Later, Amina slipped out of the crowd and walked down a quiet hallway. She had seen the bride go that way earlier, alone. Maybe she could find something. Anything to explain this feeling in her chest. The hallway was lined with gold frames and soft lights. At the end was a door marked Bridal Room. Amina pushed it gently. Unlocked. She stepped inside. The room was full of flowers and perfume. Dresses and bags were everywhere. She looked around quickly, trying not to touch anything. Then she saw it, a small wooden drawer under the makeup table. It was half open. She knelt down and slowly pulled it out. What she saw made her freeze. A black gun. 3 passports. A small brown envelope with the name Richard Allen written on it. Her father's name. Amina's hands shook. Why would the bride have a gun? Why fake passports? Why her dad's name? Her breath grew fast. She wanted to scream, to run, to throw open the door and tell someone. But she didn't know who to trust. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside the door. She quickly pushed the drawer shut and stood up. The door opened. It was the bride. There was a long silence. The bride's eyes met Amina's. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes were sharp. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly. "I was looking for the bathroom," Amina lied. The bride smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, sweetie, the bathroom is that way." She walked in and placed her hand gently on Amina's shoulder. "But this room is private." Amina nodded slowly and walked past her. But before she left the room, she turned and asked, "Who's Richard Allen?" The bride didn't answer. She just smiled wider. Back in the hall, Amina found her dad. He was speaking to a group of guests, laughing again, as if the past didn't exist. She waited until he was alone. "Dad," she said, "can I talk to you? Please." He looked at her, surprised. Of course. They stepped outside into the night air. Amina took a deep breath. "Do you know who she really is?" she asked. "The woman you're marrying." He frowned. "Amina, this isn't the time. She has a gun in her room, Dad. She has fake passports, and your name is written on something in her drawer." He looked confused, then angry. "That's enough," he said. "You're upset, and I get it. But don't start lies." "I'm not lying," she said, her voice shaking. "I saw it with my own eyes." "You need to go home," he said coldly. Amina felt her heart break. The same man who used to carry her on his shoulders now didn't even believe her. She turned to leave. But as she walked back into the hall, she saw something strange. The man in black was talking on a phone. She hid behind a curtain and listened. "She's asking too many questions," he said. "We might have to move things up. Get ready." Amina's blood turned cold. She quickly took out her phone and recorded a few seconds of the man's voice before he walked away. She had no idea what "move things up" meant, but it couldn't be good. Later that night, while most guests danced and drank, Amina sat alone near a fountain outside the venue. She pressed play on the voice recording again and again. She had proof now. But who would listen? Just then, someone sat beside her. It was a woman in a waitress uniform, one of the catering staff. She looked nervous. "I saw you go into the bridal room," the woman whispered. "You saw it too, didn't you?" Amina turned to her, surprised. "What do you mean?" The woman looked around, then leaned in. "That woman. She's dangerous. I worked for her once. And I ran." Amina's heart stopped. Before she could ask more, a loud scream came from inside the hall. People rushed out. Lights flickered. The music stopped. Then someone shouted, "The groom is missing." The music had stopped. Guests were rushing out of the wedding hall. People whispered, gasped, searched the room with wide eyes. "A groom doesn't just vanish," someone said. Amina stood still in the middle of the chaos. Her heart pounded. She felt like the walls were closing in. Her father, gone. He had been standing there just moments ago, holding a glass, laughing with a cousin. Now he was nowhere to be found. One woman fainted. The bride cried loudly. Security guards closed the doors. Something was very wrong. Amina looked around, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then she saw her again, the waitress who had warned her. The woman motioned to her, quickly. "Come with me," she whispered. "We don't have much time." Amina followed her out the side door, into a back hallway of the hotel. It was quiet there. No music, no people, just heavy silence. The woman turned to her. "You need to listen. That woman, the bride, she's not who she says she is." "I already guessed that," Amina replied, still out of breath. "But who is she?" The waitress paused, looked around, then spoke. "She's not just a liar. She's wanted." Amina's eyes widened. Wanted? For what? The woman swallowed hard. For stealing identities, for marrying rich men and making them disappear. Amina's knees almost gave out. "What do you mean? You think she hurt my dad?" "I don't know," the woman said, "but I've seen her before. 3 years ago. In another city. Different name. Same smile. Same game. And the man she married back then, he vanished too." Amina shook her head. "No, this can't be real. I worked at that wedding too. When I saw her face again today, I knew I had to say something." Amina clutched her phone. Her hands trembled. "I need to find my dad," she whispered. They returned to the hall. The bride was standing at the center, pretending to cry. "I don't know where he went," she told the guests. "He said he needed air." Amina stepped forward. He would never just leave like that. Everyone turned to look. He loved this day. He was happy. He was here just 1 minute ago. The bride's eyes darkened. "Amina, sweetheart, I know you're upset. Stop calling me that." Amina snapped. "I know what's in your drawer. I know about the gun, the passports, the envelope with his name." Gasps filled the room. The bride's smile broke. "You went through my things." Amina didn't stop. "Tell them who you really are," she said. "Tell them what you did with my dad." The bride tried to laugh it off. "She's just a child." "She's telling the truth," said the waitress, stepping forward. Now everyone stared at the bride. Her hands were shaking. Suddenly, the man in black, the same one Amina had seen near the bar, stepped forward and whispered something into the bride's ear. She nodded, and then she ran. "Stop her," Amina shouted. 2 guests jumped up to block her, but she shoved past them. Amina grabbed her phone and ran too. Through the hall, down the stairs, out the back exit. She saw the bride climb into a black SUV. Just as it was about to speed off, Amina did something crazy. She threw her mom's bracelet at the windshield. The car screeched to a stop. The door opened, and to everyone's shock, a man fell out. Amina rushed forward. It was her dad, tied and unconscious. Guests screamed. Someone called 911. The bride tried to run again, but this time, 2 security guards tackled her. The man in black pulled a gun, but Amina's voice rang out. "I have your voice recording. I know everything. And now the police will too." The man froze, then dropped the gun and surrendered. Amina knelt beside her dad. "Dad," she whispered, "please wake up." His eyes opened slowly. "Amina," he said, barely able to speak. "I'm here," she cried. "You're safe now." Police arrived within minutes. The bride and her partner were taken away in handcuffs. As the crowd watched the scene, one officer turned to Amina. "Your call and your courage saved him," he said. "You may have just stopped something very big." Amina didn't care about praise. All she wanted was her dad back. She held his hand tightly. And in that moment, under the flashing red and blue lights, he whispered, "I'm sorry I left. I should have never disappeared." She nodded, eyes full of tears. "But you're here now," she said, "and that's enough." The wedding was over, not with music, dancing, or cake, but with flashing police lights, a bride in handcuffs, a man nearly taken forever. Amina sat beside her father in the back of the ambulance. His eyes were open now, but his body still weak. The paramedics checked his pulse and gave him oxygen. She held his hand tightly, refusing to let go. "You're safe now," she whispered. But deep inside, she had questions. Too many questions. And the truth hadn't come out yet. Later that night, at the hospital, Amina waited outside his room. Her dad, Richard Allen, was finally awake, but still quiet, silent like a man who had buried too many secrets. The nurse stepped out. "You can go in now," she said gently. Amina walked in. Her dad looked up at her. He smiled weakly. "You saved my life," he said. "You saved mine first," she replied softly. "When I was a kid." There was a long pause. Then Amina sat down. "Dad, I need to know. Who is she? Who is she? Why did you hide everything from me?" Richard took a deep breath. "I didn't know who she really was. I met her 2 years ago during a business trip. She was kind, smart. She made me feel like I wasn't alone." He paused. "But she wasn't honest. I saw little signs, small lies, weird calls at night, but I ignored them. I thought, maybe I deserve some happiness." Amina looked down. "Then why didn't you invite me to the wedding?" Her dad closed his eyes, pain across his face. "I thought you hated me," he whispered. "After I left your mother, after I stopped calling, I didn't know how to fix things. I was a kid," Amina said. "I just wanted my dad." Tears filled her eyes. "And instead, I had to crash your wedding to save you." Richard reached out and wiped her tears. "I'm sorry," he said. "I thought I was protecting you by staying away, but I only made things worse." Just then, a detective entered the room. "Mr. Allen," he said, "we need to talk." Richard nodded. Amina stood up, ready to leave. "It's okay," her dad said. "Stay. You should hear this too." The detective opened a file. "The woman you almost married. Her real name is Sierra Barnes. She's been using fake names across multiple states. She targets rich, lonely men. She marries them, then disappears, sometimes with their money, sometimes with more than that." Amina felt cold. The detective continued. "She had several passports, including one with your name. We believe she was planning to vanish and frame you for something before she left." Richard's eyes widened. "But why?" "She has ties to an international identity theft group. They clean out lives like someone erases a chalkboard." Amina couldn't believe what she was hearing. "So she never loved him," she whispered. The detective shook his head. "She loved his access, his bank, his past." Richard sat in silence. Amina's heart broke again, this time for her dad. After the detective left, the room stayed quiet for a while. Then Richard spoke. "You were right about everything. You always saw what I couldn't." Amina gave a sad smile. Maybe because I was outside the story, watching it from a distance. Her dad chuckled softly. "You're braver than I'll ever be." She looked at him, serious now. "No, Dad, I'm just your daughter." The next day, as police wrapped up the case and Sierra remained in custody, something unexpected happened. A lawyer visited the hospital with a sealed letter. It had Sierra's real signature on it. Richard opened it slowly. Inside was a photo. Not of her, but of another man, bound and scared, with the date written on the back. 3 months ago. Richard stared at it. This man, he was at the resort I visited last summer. Amina leaned in. "You think she did the same thing to him?" Richard nodded. "She's not working alone. She's part of something bigger. This isn't just about me." Amina took the photo and looked closely. "If there are more victims, we need to find them." They exchanged a look. Father and daughter. United now, not just by love, but by a mission. Because stopping the wedding wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. And somewhere out there, more people were in danger. Amina sat alone in the hospital hallway, staring at the old photo Sierra had left behind. A photo of a man, eyes wide with fear, tied to a chair, with a date written on the back. 3 months ago. Who was he? Why did Sierra keep this photo? And what did it mean? She turned the photo over and over again in her hands. Her mind raced. This wasn't over. Inside the hospital room, Richard sat up in bed, watching the news on a small TV. The headline read, "Bride arrested in shocking wedding plot." The photo of Sierra flashed on the screen, next to images of her with different names and looks. Richard sighed. So many lies. Just then, Amina entered the room with determination in her step. "Dad, we have to find him," she said, holding the photo up. Richard looked at her. "You mean the man in that picture?" Amina nodded. "What if he's still alive? What if she was keeping him somewhere, just like she tried to do with you?" Richard leaned forward. "You really want to go after this?" "I didn't crash your wedding just to go back to normal life," Amina said. "I want the truth. All of it." He looked at her, really looked at her. This wasn't just his little girl anymore. She was strong, brave, ready. "All right," he said. "Let's start with what we have." That night, they sat together at the kitchen table of Amina's small apartment, a laptop open, a wall covered in sticky notes and printed photos. It felt like a mini investigation room. Amina zoomed in on the photo. There's a painting behind him, a beach, and a red flower pot on the window. That might help us narrow the location. Richard added, "And look at his shirt. That logo. I've seen it before. It's from a private boating club in Florida." Sierra mentioned a trip to Florida around that time. Amina nodded. So maybe she took him from there. They started digging deeper. Social media, missing persons websites, boating clubs. Finally, a match. A news article from 2 months ago. Local doctor vanishes during vacation. Family still searching. The photo in the article. The same man in Sierra's photo. His name was Dr. Mason Blake, a successful heart surgeon from Texas. Amina's hands shook as she read the article aloud. He was last seen leaving his resort for a walk by the ocean. His wife said he never returned. Police found no evidence of a struggle. Just gone. Richard's eyes narrowed. She did it again. Amina stood up. "We have to tell someone." "Not just anyone," Richard said. "We need someone who will believe us. And move fast." He picked up his phone and called a number he hadn't dialed in years. "Agent Leela." "It's me. Richard Allen. I need your help." The next morning, They met Agent Leila Barnes at a quiet federal office outside the city. She listened carefully as Amina and Richard shared everything. Sierra's real name, the photo, the wedding, the gun, and the hidden past. When Amina showed her the photo of Dr. Mason Blake, the agent leaned forward. "This case is deeper than we thought," she said. "We've been tracking a group that does exactly this. Rich targets, fake marriages, fake deaths, and sometimes real ones." Amina's stomach turned. "But we have a lead now," Leila continued. "This photo could help us find where they're hiding him." By that afternoon, the FBI had launched a quiet search in Florida, near the resort where Dr. Blake was last seen. They used satellite images, checked local rentals, scanned abandoned properties. A small beach house, just off the coast, caught their attention. When they arrived, the doors were locked, curtains drawn. No answer. But from inside, a faint sound, like someone moving. The team broke the door. What they found inside shocked them. Dr. Mason Blake, weak, tired, but alive, chained to a bed in a hidden room, with just water and some food packets. He was rescued that day because of Amina. When the news broke, headlines changed. Teen crashes wedding, saves father, then helps FBI rescue missing doctor. Reporters called her a hero. But Amina didn't care about fame. All she wanted was justice. As she and her dad sat quietly, watching the news together, Richard put his arm around her. "I don't deserve a daughter like you," he said. Amina smiled. "Maybe not, but you have one." He laughed softly. And in that moment, for the first time in years, they felt like a real family again. But something still haunted Amina. She looked at her father. "Dad, if Sierra was just part of a bigger group, who's behind all of this?" Richard's face turned serious. He looked her in the eyes. "You're right," he said. "We've only scratched the surface." It had been 2 weeks since Dr. Mason Blake was rescued. The media called it a miracle. Amina and Richard were praised, but they stayed quiet. They weren't celebrating yet, because deep down, they both knew something darker was still out there. One night, while Amina was cleaning up her small apartment, her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then picked up. A deep voice said, "You're making noise where silence is safer." Amina froze. "Who is this?" But the line went dead. She looked out the window, heart racing. Were they watching? The next day, Richard met with Agent Leila Barnes in a secure federal office. "Someone just threatened my daughter," he said firmly. "I want names. I want faces. Who are they?" Leila took out a file and slid it across the table. "We've been investigating a group called The Veil," she said. "It's a secret network of powerful people, men and women in business, law, even law enforcement. They cover each other's crimes, protect fake identities, and destroy anyone who gets too close." Richard opened the file. Photos, documents, disappearances. Some people were never found. "They're ghosts," Leila said. And Sierra, she was just a small part. Meanwhile, Amina was doing her own research. She looked into Sierra's past, old addresses, fake names. Then something caught her eye. An old news article from 10 years ago. A woman named Celeste Miles had been arrested for fraud in Europe. The photo looked almost identical to Sierra, but younger. Amina gasped. She printed it and took it straight to her dad. "That's her," she said. "This is Sierra. She's been doing this for years." Richard nodded. "And she always disappears before the law can catch up." But then, Amina noticed something else. In the background of the photo, a man. Same man from the boating club logo. Same face in another article. She whispered. She wasn't working alone even back then. Leila confirmed it. The man's name was Dominic Cross, an ex-intelligence officer gone rogue. Brilliant, dangerous, and missing for years. He was the brain behind it all. He builds fake lives like puzzles, Leela explained. Sierra, Celeste, whatever name she uses, she's just one piece. Amina asked, so where is he now? Leela shook her head. We don't know. But we do know this. He's watching. That night, Amina couldn't sleep. She remembered the voice on the phone. You're making noise where silence is safer. She sat at her desk and opened her journal. She started writing down everything. Names, places, clues. I'm not staying silent, she whispered. Not now. Suddenly, her phone lit up. A message. Still digging, little girl. Attached. A photo of her, taken just minutes ago, through her window. She ran to the curtains and shut them. Called her dad. But he didn't answer. Panic hit her like a wave. She called Layla. We need to find my dad. Now. Meanwhile, Richard was at a grocery store. He felt someone following him. He turned, but no one was there. Then, a sharp sting in his neck. Everything went dark. Hours later, Amina, Leela, and a federal team searched the area. Richard's car was found. Door open, no sign of him. And in the passenger seat, a note. This time, we took him. Next time, it's you. Amina stared at the words, her body trembling. Her heart broke. Her father, gone again. Taken by the group they were hunting. But this time, they made a mistake. They thought she'd run. Hide. Stay silent. They didn't know Amina. She wiped her tears, stood tall, and looked Leela in the eyes. I'm not going to stop until I get him back. Leela nodded. Then we do it together. And we bring the whole network down. Amina whispered, this isn't just about saving him now. It's about ending them. The world thought it was over. The media moved on. The headlines faded. But Amina, she couldn't move on. Not until her father came home. Richard had been missing for 6 days. No messages, no demands, just silence. But Amina wasn't waiting anymore. She was planning. At a secure FBI office, Amina sat with Agent Layla Barnes and a small team of trusted officers. We can't wait for them to make the next move. Amina said, we need to pull them out. Make them come to us. Leela leaned forward. You want to bait them. Amina nodded. I know Sierra's game. She and Dominic cross like clean secrets. Hidden crimes. But the moment you put truth in the spotlight, they panic. What are you thinking? Leela asked. Amina took out her phone and smiled. I'm thinking we go viral. The next morning, a video hit the internet. Amina sat in front of a camera. Calm, strong. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She told a story. About a woman named Sierra. About a missing doctor. About a man named Dominic Cross. And about her father, a groom kidnapped from his own wedding. The video ended with one sentence. I'm not afraid of you. I'm coming for you. The views exploded. Within hours, it hit national news. People demanded answers. Journalists started asking questions, and somewhere in a dark room, Dominic Cross watched the screen with anger in his eyes. She's smarter than I thought, he growled. Sierra, still recovering from her arrest and release on bail, stood beside him. We underestimated her, she admitted. Dominic's voice was cold. She wants attention. Let's give her some. Back in the FBI office, Leela got a call. We traced the video's first viral spike. A tech officer said. It was boosted by a private network, tied to a safe house near the docks. Amina jumped to her feet. That's them. They're watching. Leela nodded. Then it's time to hit back. The FBI set the trap. That night, Amina returned to her old apartment, the same one where she was threatened. Only this time, it was wired with cameras, mics, and agents on standby. Amina acted normal, watched TV, wrote in her journal, but she left the window cracked, waiting. At 1:43 a.m., someone tried the back door. Silent. Professional. Inside, Leela gave the go signal. Amina stayed still, holding her breath. The door creaked open. Footsteps. A tall figure in black entered, and just as he reached for Amina's phone. Lights, sirens, yelling. The agents swarmed in. The intruder tried to run, but they tackled him before he hit the stairs. It wasn't Dominic. It was one of his men. But he had something better than a name. A map, drawn on a torn paper, with one spot circled in red. They followed the lead. An old warehouse at the edge of the city, locked, abandoned looking. But inside, they found Richard. Weak, bruised, alive. Amina ran to him and fell into his arms. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. She cried for the first time in days. But there was more. In that warehouse, they found laptops, files, fake IDs, photos of dozens of people, targets, victims, and one name written again and again. Dominic Cross. As dawn broke, Layla looked at Amina. "You did it. You brought your father home." Amina shook her head. "Not yet. He's still out there." She looked at the warehouse wall, where one photo still hung. Dominic standing in front of a yacht, with the word Revenant printed on the side. Amina stepped closer. "Do you know what Revenant means?" she asked Layla. Leela shook her head. "It means someone who comes back from the dead." Amina turned. "And now we're going to bury him for good." Richard was free, but peace still felt far away. Dominic Cross, the mastermind, the ghost, was still out there. And Amina knew he wouldn't run. He'd strike again. Back at the FBI office, Richard sat with Agent Lila Barnes and Amina. He looked thinner, tired, but his eyes were sharp again. "He talked to me," Richard said. "Dominic, while I was locked in that room." "What did he say?" Leela asked. Richard looked down. "He said I ruined everything. That Sierra was just his puppet, but I was the real problem." He looked at Amina. "And now, he thinks you are." Later that night, Amina scrolled through the files they found in the warehouse. One document stood out. A ship schedule. A private yacht, the Revenant, was docking in Miami for only 12 hours. Richard pointed to it. "He's there. That's his escape route." Leela nodded. "If we want him, it has to be now." The plan was risky. Amina wanted in. "No," Leela said. "You've done enough." Amina shook her head. "He knows me. He trusts me to be emotional, not tactical. That's our advantage." Richard sighed. "She's right. We let her come, but she doesn't go in alone." The next morning, they reached the Miami port. The Revenant was docked like any other luxury yacht. Beautiful, polished, quiet. But inside, it was a fortress. Armed guards, cameras. One wrong move, and someone would die. Disguised as yacht staff, Amina boarded first. Wearing a black dress and sunglasses, she held a tray of champagne. She walked past two guards, pretending not to shake. Inside, she saw him. Dominic Cross. Older, taller, calm like a shadow. He sat by a table, sipping wine. His voice was smooth, cold. "I wondered when you'd come." Amina didn't blink. "You always loved attention. Now the world's watching." Dominic smiled. "No, they're watching you. I made you famous. I gave you power." He stood slowly. "But let's be honest. You're nothing without your father." Amina clenched her fists. She whispered, "Then you should have killed me." Suddenly, Lila's voice buzzed in her earpiece. "No." The door burst open. FBI agents stormed in. Dominic reached into his coat, a flash of metal. Amina ducked. Gunshots, screams. But within seconds, he was on the floor, handcuffed, breathing heavy, still smiling. "I told you," he whispered to Amina. "I never lose." She looked down at him. "You lost the day you underestimated me." Dominic Cross was arrested and charged with kidnapping, fraud, blackmail, and more. His empire fell. His secrets burned under the sun. Sierra, now identified as Celeste Miles, was tried and sentenced. The veil, his secret network, began to crumble. One by one, justice found them all. Weeks later, Amina stood at a park with her dad. They sat on a bench, side by side. "I can't believe it's over," she said softly. Richard smiled. "It's not over. It's just the beginning." She looked at him. "What do you mean?" He handed her a small folder. Inside, an ID card. Her name. A new internship badge. FBI Special Intelligence Program. Civilian access. Richard said, "They want you. Not because you're my daughter, but because you're fearless, smart, and you never give up." Amina held the card. She thought about everything she had survived. The pain, the fear, the fight. And now, her voice mattered. Her story was hers again. As the sun set behind them, she whispered, "Let them come, because I'm ready now."